Yeah, my name is Patrick Lawler, and first off, I'd like to say thank you so much to Skylar for having me here today. I'm incredibly honored that he wanted to hang out and listen to what I had to say, and I am very fortunate to have this platform. And yeah, thank you, Skylar. Sorry, I don't have the same like exuberant energy that I usually have. It's been really heavy recently. And so, as much as I have spent my whole life, trying to force exuberant positivity out of myself, I'm finding it really hard right now, and I'm trying. And so, to everyone who's used to seeing the super happy, bouncy Patrick, I'm still there. It's hard. It's really hard. So, now that you're listening, I at first wanted to talk about my upbringing in a completely white town and all of the implicit bias that was just hammered into me as a young kid, and the thousands of potential friendships that has cost me. But I think that everyone has that same story in some form or another, and there's no point in me going into specific instances and things that I've learned or things that I'm embarrassed about. So what I would like to focus on is going forward. That's the direction we're going in. We can't change the past, but we can change the ending of our story. So that's what I want to focus on. So now that you're listening, it's okay to say black. You can say I have a black friend. This is a black person, right? I was using POC, people of color, African Americans, up until fucking 2 weeks ago. We're all learning, but black people want to be called black people, and it's okay. I grew up saying, oh my God, there's a black guy, right? We would always dip our voice, right? Even if it was a friend that we were talking about, like, oh, my black friend, right? There's always like a dip in the volume. It's not something to be ashamed about. Some people do prefer to be called African American, and if they correct you on that, just call them that. Simple as that, You don't be afraid of making a mistake. Just change your actions if you do make a mistake, and don't dwell on it. Because they're probably correcting people like 40 times a day, and they're not a good, whatever. It's part of life. Now that you're listening and you're having conversations, stop making it about your guilt. Stop making it about your guilt and how bad you feel, because nobody cares. Feeling bad is part of this process that we all have to go through on our own. So cry in your room, cry in your shower. You can talk to your friends, but when you're having important, meaningful conversations, don't make it about you. This is your chance to listen, and this is your chance. You are not deserved a hug because you just found out that you have racist tendencies. It feels awful. And it's some of the most difficult growing I've had to do in my entire life in this past couple weeks. But under no circumstance as a black person should I subject one of my black friends to my sadness and my blubbering, wallowing in pain. It's a complete abuse of their time, and it is disrespectful. It's just like women. Would you rather date a fuckboy like me who is going to use you as his therapist, or would you rather go out with a guy who's got his shit together and like has been going to therapy and stuff like that? Like, obviously you want to go out with someone who's got their shit together, right? So like when you're having these kinds of conversations with people, you have to have your shit together. Be ready to help. Be ready to listen, and shut the fuck up. Now that you're listening, it's important to keep listening. If you know me, then the chances are I have interrupted you and talked over you. Probably every time you've tried to say something. This is something that I'm working on, and it's one of the biggest problems is listening to someone else talk and hearing them instead of just thinking about what you're going to say next. And that's the hardest thing for me to do. I'm constantly thinking about fun things that I want to add to a conversation, or interesting points or facts or tidbits, but it's important to turn that off and listen and have people be heard. People are sharing some of the most gut-wrenching, most painful stories of their entire lives just so that we will understand and treat them the same. And you have to give them that respect about not thinking about what you're going to say next. It's okay to be silent. Listen and support them. Now that you're listening, you may never be able to understand someone's story, but you can be there and you can listen to their story and you can stand next to them in their fight for justice. Now that you're listening, it's time to actually dig deep and educate yourself about Black culture. Now, this is just kind of a general statement, but something that I learned in my early 30s, was that most of the things that I was abhorrently against, most of the films, the art, music, race aside, just movies, art, theater, things that I hated were mostly things I didn't know anything about. And I started realizing this right after I had some friends who would like prove me wrong about some things. They'd say like, oh really, why do you hate that artist? Like I used to hate Bruno Mars. For example, I thought that song Grenade was awful. And that was the only song I had heard from him. I just heard that song and I was like, I don't like that song. I think it's dumb. And I didn't like him at all. And so then anytime that I would hear something about Bruno Mars, I'd be like, oh God, gross. And I didn't even know what he looked like. Right? I had just heard the song. That was literally it. And so then I got asked to write a music video treatment for him. And I was like, oh man. And usually when I write music video treatments for people, I do a deep dive. So I'll go look at every single piece of media they've ever done and I learn about who they are as a person. And in so doing, I became a huge Bruno Mars fan. Like, I started, 24 Karat Magic is fucking dope. Like, so much class and so much of his music. And like, and it was just because I hadn't taken the time to learn about him, right? And, it's that with literally everything. If you can't tell me really why you hate something, then you actually just don't know it. So I think it's really important right now for us to respect and learn about Black culture. We need to change the chemicals that are released in our brain when we see Black people. We've been programmed to view Black people as a threat, and they're not. The more that you learn about something, the more respect you have for it. The more I learn, the more I realize I can go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. You can pick anything you want in the world, from plastic to screws to filmmaking to art and painting. You can take that so deep you can study it for your whole life and still never know anything. There's so much that we need to educate ourselves about Black culture. And just over the past couple weeks, I've felt those chemicals changing in my brain. Now when I see a Black person, it feels different. It's hard to describe, but I feel compassion and I feel sorrow. And I see any Black person and I see the pain of all of my Black friends and the stories that they've shared in that person. And this is what we need to do. The more you educate yourself about something, the more you'll see why it exists and the beauty that exists in it. And the more that we educate ourselves about Black culture, the quicker we'll see a Black person and be like, oh my God, this must be a really wonderful person. Can't wait to meet them. That's what we need to change. Because, I can't tell you how many Black people I've avoided at parties simply because I was afraid. It's because of how I was. It's not like, my parents are some of the most wonderful, liberal people you'll ever meet in your entire life. And so it's not like they were raising me saying Black people are bad. Most people don't want to admit that they, or their parents, or their upbringing, or their communities have massive racist undertones. And it's crazy coming from San Luis Obispo. So now that you're listening, check in on your Black friends. See how they're doing, see if there's any way you can help them. Now, I've personally had a little bit of, personal caution. When all this started happening, I was worried, what if my Black friend thinks I'm reaching out to him just because he's Black? That's fine. Now is the time to reach out to your Black friends and ask them how they're doing. Now, it's important that you don't turn it into some horrible big conversation about stuff. Keep it friendly, keep it genuine. Ask them what are they doing in their lives? Like, be friendly. Talk about what friends talk about. We don't need to talk about the current climate. The important thing is to be there for our friends. Now that we're listening, we need to normalize changing your opinion after you've received new information. Being wrong is the goal. Like science, right? We have to approach this from the scientific method, right? It should be just as dope for you to stand on top of a mountain and yell, "I was wrong," than it should to proclaim "I was right." There's a fundamental problem in America where so many people throughout my life have been unable to say I'm sorry or accept fault. No matter, and even me, right? So like, keep in mind, all of this I'm directing at myself as well. But it's so hard for us to say, I'm sorry, I was wrong. I want to learn everything about this now and change other people's opinions. It's so much easier to just double down and get vicious and start fighting and go on Google and search for, ways to win my argument about this, and then find like the 6 articles that support your bullshit. We need to normalize changing your opinion, being fucking proud of it. I'm fucking proud of how far I've come, and I'm ashamed of the mistakes that I've made in my past, but it pales in comparison now to the direction I'm going. And I know I can never undo the pain that I've caused people. I can't even tell you what most of that pain is, because I'm sure I didn't even notice it. It was just a way I talked to someone or brushed someone off or didn't give them the time of day or didn't hire them without even thinking. But the important thing is now going forward. Now that you're listening, it's important to give people of color an opportunity. There are so many music video productions, that's my world, where we have a bunch of black people in front of the camera and no one behind the camera. And as Skylar said in his last video, we're essentially doing our white version of what we think black videos are. And we need more black people to be on our sets, telling us how it's done and showing us and helping us make really cool art. Because, I just want to light shit. And it pains me to know that I have co-opted the black culture for my own gain in my own watered down way. We need to create art with black people, not about them. Now that you're listening, we need to defund the fucking police. There's so much I could say about that. Our entire city council has taken money from the police PAC, every single one of them, from 20s to hundreds of thousands of dollars. They don't have our best interest in mind whatsoever. Eric Garcetti, fuck you. You're literally killing your own people. Eric Garcetti closed all the testing centers when the Black Lives Matter movement started protesting to punish them, because they were protesting. God, I just get so angry. The inhumanity of these fuckers who are in control of our city. The people's budget of LA put out a quiz and quizzed everyone in Los Angeles, and thousands of people answered what they think money should go towards. And if you look at Eric Garcetti's budget, over half of it is fucking law enforcement and then fire, which is cool. I'm down with firefighters. They're dope. You don't hear people saying fuck the fire department. So they can stay. But civil services and social services and all of those small things are just like little tiny fractions. And if you look at the people of LA budget, law enforcement's nowhere on there. It's such a small thing. In the future, we're going to be looking back on ourselves as barbaric animals, saying, how could they treat their own kind like this? How could they treat humans like this? How could so many humans be okay and turn a blind eye while the police are murdering people in the streets? And now we have white supremacists who are out literally hunting our friends in the streets, and they're hitting them with their cars and they're lynching them. And I still have friends who are trying to fucking fact check me. And I'm like, why are you asking me, why aren't you believing these black families? Why are you saying, well, technically, like, so there's so much bullshit that people are coming at me with. It's like, you need to believe these people and you need to work towards the future. And I'm fucking sick of it, man. I'm sick of having to, ever since I was in 7th grade, and I learned about marginalized people, I became a punk instantly because they were the only section, they were the only clan or like sect in my high school that would allow anyone in. Ever since 7th grade, I've been yelling about the World Trade Organization, and then it turned into, George Bush and the war in Iraq, and I'm tired of people saying like, oh, well, like Iraq must have done something. It's like, in this instant, when someone is yelling about marginalized people who are dying, you have two choices. You can believe them, and you can say, how can I help? Or you can try to question them, and you can try to nag them, and you can try to like make them feel bad. And it's counterproductive to the process. And it's all because you don't want to do the work to help solve the problem, because it's easier for you to just sit on your couch and argue with people, and it makes you feel good. So, defund the fucking police. They're fucking murdering innocent people. Defund the fucking police, man. I don't understand. Now that we're listening, we need to make sure that the media we're sharing is productive towards the movement. So all this 8 can't wait bullshit, all of these celebrities in black and white videos saying I take responsibility, it's all done by the same people, right? It's the same organization. They're coming up with counterproductive ways that sound good to white people for them to spread. And it's not part of the movement. So we need to make sure that when you're spreading media, it's helpful, because even I am guilty. I shared tons of videos of cops kneeling because I thought it was happy and was going to make my followers happy. We need to listen to the actual Black Lives Matter movement. We need to listen to what they're saying, and we can't share things that are counterproductive to their movement, because we are just causing more harm with our ignorance. Now that you're listening, if you still have a job and you have any money, find ways to donate. If you don't have any money, there are tons of live streams that generate ad revenue that you can watch that will help raise money. It's a really good thing. If you're an artist, you can donate your time. If you're a writer, you can write stuff. I see graphic designers helping. I see video editors helping. I see all kinds of people making so much progress, and I'm really proud of that. Now that you're listening, make sure to take care of yourself and tend to the garden that you can touch. My friend Sarah told me that at the beginning of the COVID-19 ordeal, and I think that's the single piece of advice that has helped me the most. Tend to the garden you can touch. Which essentially just means, don't stress yourself out reading about Donald Trump every day. Focus on what you can do locally. Focus on what you can do within your friend group. Reach out to people and make sure that they're doing okay. Be a human and be genuine. You don't need to, we're not going to, none of us at my level are going to change anything nationally very easily. So start in your peripheral. And that's something that really did me a lot of good, because I spend the majority of my time stressing about world politics and politics in other states. And the second that my friend Sissy shared a link to all of the city council member people's phone numbers, and I was like, oh my God, wait, I can actually call these people and I can yell at them because they are allowing the death of innocent people, and I can actually get their assistance on the phone. And I started doing that. And now and I'm not saying that because I did that, but I was part of the people that joined in with a whole bunch of others around Los Angeles who are now calling in and demanding change, and public comment is now a new fucking sport. There was an LA police live stream, and they got bogged down for 7 to 8 hours with people just unleashing on them. It was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. One of the guys was just like, I yield my time, fuck you. Like, seeing so many people come together to tell the police to go fuck themselves was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. And getting involved in local politics is really great because we can do that kind of stuff, and it might make them change their opinions. But this is an archaic dinosaur system that needs to be fucking burned to the ground and replaced by compassionate, trained people who have experience and degrees in medicine and mental health. So here's some Instagram accounts to follow that I enjoy. One of them is In This Together LA. And I'll just text these to you, whatever, when you're doing it. Maybe we can put a link on the video or something.
Yeah.
Got a Justice for LA Now, Youth Justice LA. We got LA Rent Strike, because people still can't pay their rent. COVID is still a thing. So LA Rent Strike, they're super cool. I really big fan of them. Already following Skylar. Follow Ricky Sergenko. He's a really cool activist who's taught me a lot about what we could do locally, and he's pretty much he's my local hero. I really enjoy him. I think he's wonderful. The People's Budget LA is really important. Go there and take their survey and tell them what how you think the budget should be spread out, and then compare that to fucking Mayor Garcetti's fuck you budget, and see what you think. Just casual.